Hello my lovelies, welcome back to my channel. If you're new, hi, how are you? I hope you're having a great week. So in today's video we will be doing my museum. Going into this build, yeah, again, no shock, I had no idea what I was going to do. I knew I kind of wanted to turn it into like a farmer's market or a place where they sell their veg that they grow in the town. So I knew I definitely want some fields. And I found this lovely cultivation crop sort of code that I was just really excited to use. So here's the area we're working in. It's very close to the beach on the right hand side of my island, and I do end up cutting off a river mouth, but I don't really know how you're meant to incorporate a river mouth that is so close to the edge of the beach. So I'm gonna have to create a faux river mouth at some point within this island build, but that's a problem for another day. So onto the actual build. Like I said, I didn't really have a plan going into it. I just kind of built what I felt like building and kind of just went with the flow. So I picked out this log fencing because I'm obsessed with it. It's from Harvey's Island originally, I think, but I just really like how it fits with this island. So I started off with this big field in front just to try and give me some inspiration for how I really wanted to lay out the front of the museum. So I'm planning on keeping the museum in the tent because I think it just works better with this island, and I think it just works better in general with what I'm going for. But in that, I didn't know that once you've placed it down you can't move the tent. So I kind of just randomly threw it down when I was doing the 3 stars. So I've had to try and deal with it being in place now. And I do think this build came out really well. I'm actually really impressed with myself and how my building style is improving. So I've just built another field there behind the museum. And at the moment I'm just kind of getting a layout of how I want things to go and not really focusing on majorly filling it in and like finishing off that area, just getting like the bones of the build, I guess. So my villagers did my head in the entire time building this build. But I wrapped that road around in front of the museum so you kind of had a direction and way I want you to walk. I also really like the party lights in front of the museum. I think it just fits so well. So to the right of the museum I had an idea to create a sort of home for the tractor and where the tractor kind of lives, I guess. So I just used the retro transportation stops, which I think I'm going to use throughout the build anyway. They're just so versatile, and you can just turn them into anything really. So I just placed these 3 of them to create a sort of U shape, and it just fits really well with the tractor. So I was actually really impressed with how I just thought that up on the spot. But I just placed in these olive tea leaf bushes, which is kind of the bushes I'm using throughout this island, because I just think the colours work really well with the colours that I've put into the builds. So again, I'm going back to the infamous storage, back and forth. Adding in some wheat fields because they will be used throughout. I'm definitely going to have to go and order a bunch from Nooks because I am running out. Yeah, I just kind of took my time through this build, and I think you can probably tell in the video a lot of time I'm just going back and forth, and I do go back to areas I've already done and just add a little bit more. But I'm still trying to make sure that I'm not stressing myself out with builds, and I'm just building as it comes to me and just, you know, still enjoying building stuff, I guess. So here I was just trying to think of where I could go to next and what part I could start building on. I definitely really like how this code came out, and I'll definitely link the code in the description for you guys to use. But on the right hand side of this island, because it's so close to the beach, I did struggle with how I was going to decorate the empty space, and it did start to stress me out towards the end of this build, but inevitably I just kind of left it, and it's something I'll come back to when I'm doing the final touches on the island, but I didn't want to ruin this build by stressing myself out about smaller areas. So this is the big cultivation field that I definitely was kind of the only idea that I had for this build, was that I wanted to have a huge field that had been almost cultivated, ready for the crops to go in. And I definitely think I picked a perfect place for it. I think in front of the museum it looks amazing, and it just adds something different to the build. I've never really used a lot of the items that I used in this build, like the froggy chair that I'm going to include in a minute in this little market area I put at the end, the tape deck, and a few other bits and bobs like the bottle crate and the mum's tea cozy. So I am still trying to challenge myself in using objects I've never really used before, but I did really like how this little area turned out. So I had this kind of like wasted space at the end of the road, and I had the idea of creating a little stall area where you could kind of understand what this whole build is meant to be about. So I just added a little stall, and I kind of jumped back and forth between different parts of this build because I see something and I think, oh, actually this would be really good somewhere else. But it just goes to show, like, you could go into a build with a perfect plan, but once you're building you might feel that things are different, or you might like things in different areas, and it's just not stressing yourself out in conforming to just that one idea that you had. So I'm just going around and adding trees now and kind of decorating the empty spaces around what I've already completed. And in this empty space in front I add another field, but instead of it being a cultivated field I lean more into the crops that are already growing in it. So I believe I add carrots. I think I made this a little carrot field, but there's that rhythm mouth there that I closed off. As you can see, it's just so close to the edge of the map. I don't really know why I picked this map at all, but it's a problem for another day really. So I added in all of these crops, and at the end of the video, once I show you an overall of the build, I did time travel to make sure they're grown through, and I think that little area of the crops just turned out so cute. So the froggy chair I've just picked up from that wooden storage shed. I've never actually used that object. It's the cutest thing ever, but I've just never really learnt to using it. I don't think I really picked a theme that I feel like it fitted, but this theme, it's just so cute. I just love it so much. But I added into this little market area on the end, and I think it just works so well. I am actually really proud of myself for this build. I think it's a great continuation from my entrance build that I did, and I think it worked out really well, if I do say. I think the flow works really well. It is also still very simple and not too overly cluttered or overly complicated, because I'm still, I'd say, learning how to build and still developing my building skills. So I don't really want to complicate things by doing a very intricate build. I kind of want to keep things simple and still enjoy building. So I'm not really sure in terms of the whole island what part I'm going to go and do and build next, but I really just wanted to tackle this museum because, as I said, I can't move the museum, so I didn't really know how I was going to incorporate the museum in such an awkward space, of it being so close to resident services. So currently in the build I add these storefronts to the back of this cultivation field, and I'm planning on building a big faux building at the back of this field, but currently there's some resident houses, and at the moment I don't really have a plan for the resident situation, so I didn't want to move them somewhere and then have to move them back. So I thought I'd just focus on one build at a time, get the sort of bones, I guess, the layout for the next build, which will probably build the faux building of that. But just get a little bit of a backdrop for the museum's current build. So I just lined these with different hedges and different fencing just to make it feel a little bit more full, without covering it in trees, because I do find that I keep covering things in trees and relying on trees for different heights, where there is definitely some other objects I should be using and diversifying how I'm building. So this little rhythm elf, I didn't know how I was going to combat including it because it is quite an eyesore. So I decided to create this sort of dam, I guess, because I do see them in different farms. I do see them in a lot of farms where they kind of get their water sources from. So I do think it is fitting, and I think it worked really well to kind of cover up that rhythm elf. But if there's any ideas of how to hide a rhythm elf, I do have another one on the other side of the island that I'm gonna probably have to cover up. So if you comment them, that would be great. So we're coming to the end of this build really, and I'm just kind of faffing around with making sure everything is decorated and then I'm happy with everything. I am really proud of how this turned out. I think it looks so nice, so simple, so clean, and I definitely think that it works for how I wanted it to work and the theme that I'm leaning into. I'm really excited about where I'm going to go next with the builds and how I'm going to keep incorporating new build styles and using objects I've never really lent or reached for. So yes, I'm really happy with how things are going and how this island is starting to take form and, build into a fully fledged island. So this is the end of this build. I'm really happy with how it turns out. I really hope that you guys like it. Definitely this sort of golden hour timing in the game just makes everything in this build look so nice. This little area by here with the tractor and the museum I think turned out the best. I'm really proud of how this turned out. The party lights in front of the museum in a tent I think just work so well. It's such a good combination. I really love the cultivation fields. I think it just looks so good and it works so well. This little crop field is so cute with the little stall in front of, so I'm really happy with how this whole area came together, and I really hope you guys like it as well. Thank you so much for watching, and I really hope you enjoyed this video. I'm really happy with how everything turned out, and I hope that you've taken some inspiration for how you can decorate your museum. I'm definitely loving doing this farm core theme, and I'm so excited to be bringing you guys along with me. So make sure you like, comment and subscribe, and I will definitely see you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching. Bye guys.